So a big part on how teams can build championship rosters is having good, effective contracts in their possession. But today we're going to be talking about the opposite of having those good contracts. We're going to look at the 15 worst contracts in the NBA right now. And I'm not ranking these contracts 1 to 15. They're just going to be their own individual ranking. There could be some different criteria why they're making this video. It could just be their availability on the floor. I think they're maybe overpaid just a little bit for what they provide for you. Maybe they just have a bad dollar amount for 2027. Maybe they're just getting up there in age. You can't really trust them in a playoff rotation. So there'll be a bunch of different factors in here as well. And I would love to know if you agree or disagree with any of the contracts that I bring up for today's video. And like always, let me know down below if there's anybody that I didn't mention. So we're going to start off with maybe the holy grail of bad contracts right now. It's kind of been the worst contract in the NBA since maybe December of 2024, right off him signing this contract extension, and that is Paul George of the Philadelphia 76ers. Paul George shockingly did not return to the Los Angeles Clippers in free agency of 2024 and opted to go to the city of brotherly love to team up with Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. He signed a 4-year max contract worth $212 million in July of 2024. Last year for Philadelphia, he was paid $49 million. This year, $51.6 million. Now we know that he's not going to get that whole $51.6 million because he currently got suspended for 25 games. He's owed $54 million next year, and then has a $56.5 million player option in 2028 when he's going to be almost 38 years old. And Paul George is definitely overpaid for his production. He has definitely regressed in his NBA career since he signed with Philadelphia. He's making up 33% of the team's total cap space and is really going to handicap them and what they want to do going forward. Paul George this year was definitely playing a little bit better than he was last year because he was banged up a ton. He only played half the season in 2025, appearing in 41 games. He's not really going to play much more this year as well because he has dealt with injuries. And then as he was kind of finding his stride, he ends up getting suspended. He had one of the best games of his 76ers career, maybe the best game of his Sixers career against Milwaukee. But this year, Paul George in just 27 games, shooting 42% from the field, averaging 16 points, 5 rebounds, and 3.5 assists. At 35 years old, I don't really see Paul George getting much better, and he is definitely overpaid on this contract. And I still believe that this is the worst contract in the NBA right now because it still has 2 more years remaining on it after this season. Another bad dollar amount right now has to be Zach LaVine of the Sacramento Kings, and this is a contract that the Kings were willing to take on from the Chicago Bulls at the 2025 deadline. This was the main player that they got back in the De'Aaron Fox trade. Zach LaVine back in the offseason of 2022 signed a 5-year, $215 million contract extension with the Chicago Bulls. He got paid $37 million in 2023, $40 million in 2024, $44.5 million for the Sacramento Kings last season. He's making $47.5 million right now, and then has a $48.9 million player option this offseason for 2027, and I'm going to probably guarantee to you that he's going to opt into that. Zach LaVine is out for the year right now, undergoing season-ending surgery on his right hand after the All-Star break, which ends his first full year in Sacramento with 39 games, 37 starts, 19 points per game, 47% from the field, 39% from 3, about 3 rebounds and 2 assists a night, and is a very expensive player on the worst team in the NBA. And he's making 30% of the Kings cap space right now. It goes down to 29.5% of their cap space next season. There is a chance Zach LaVine gets bought out from the Sacramento Kings this offseason, or is just not on the roster entirely after the deadline next NBA season. This is definitely one of the worst dollar amounts in the league right now. I thought there was a chance Zach LaVine could have maybe had a really impressive scoring season. Maybe he opts out of $48 million in the offseason and he signs a longer term deal with a higher guaranteed amount. That's not happening. Nobody's really giving Zach LaVine a big contract right now with his health concerns, his defensive liabilities, and he hasn't really been a floor raiser for any of the teams he has been on. We are a decent amount of time removed from that 2022 Bulls team where they were one of the best teams in the NBA with Zach LaVine as a top scoring option. And this isn't going to be the only Sacramento King we talk about in this video. So I said how Paul George is probably the worst contract in the NBA just because of how massive it is. This could also take the cake for the worst contract in the NBA. At least Zach LaVine and Paul George, when they're out there, could be high volume scores for you and could definitely be effective in the half court. This could take the cake for the worst contract in the league based off the production you're getting, and that is Patrick Williams of the Chicago Bulls. Yeah, the former 4th overall pick signed a contract extension with the Bulls in the 2024 offseason, and that was a 5-year, $90 million extension as a restricted free agent when it really didn't feel like there was any other suitors out there. They really weren't getting into a bidding war, and the Bulls kind of bid up against themselves, where he's making $18 million on the dot. He made that in 2025. He's making that this year. next year in 2028 and has an $18 million player option for 2029. So this is guaranteed for the next 4 seasons, including this year. And they already had to pay Patrick Williams $18 million last year. It makes up 11% of your cap space for somebody that's shooting 39% from the field, averaging 7 points per game, and having a career low season across the board in minutes per game, field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, free throw percentage. He's getting to the free throw line less than 1 time a night for the first time in his career, 7 points, 3 rebounds, 1.5 assists a night. I would love to see him with a change of scenery, but just nobody is taking on this contract right now, given that it has 3 more years of guaranteed money after this season. And for the production Patrick Williams is giving you with limited playoff experience, this could be an untradeable contract for the next few seasons. Maybe Chicago parlays this into something bigger down the line, but right now this contract is definitely unmovable. And I don't even think anybody wants to take a chance on the former top 5 pick. A questionable contract extension that happened in the 2025 offseason was the Toronto Raptors re-signing Jakob Poeltl, who did have around a $19 million player option for the 2026 offseason. So they were scared that he could opt out of that, he could leave, and they would lose an asset for the long term. So they gave Jakob Poeltl a very generous extension last offseason. That is a new 3-year deal worth $84 million on top of a current 2-year contract. So Jakob Poeltl at 30 years old right now is making $19.5 million this year and next year, roughly 12% of the team's total cap space. Then it goes up to about 16% of the team's total cap space in 2028, making $27 million. 2029, he's going to be making $29 million, and then back down to $27 million in 2030 when he's going to be about 35 years old. Jakob Poeltl has dealt with a bunch of injuries here in 2026, and I do think he's a valuable player out there with his rim protection, his screen setting, and his veteran leadership, but you're looking at maybe a declining asset right now who's dropped about 5 points per game. He's played about a third of the season this year, and it's been dealing with some lingering back issues. He can't space the floor whatsoever, and at 30 years old, I'm a little skeptical about this contract aging out in Toronto. And I get they're not a big market team and they're not going to be able to convince free agents to sign with you, so you don't want to lose an asset if you don't have to. I just thought they could maybe let this season play out. I don't think Jakob Poeltl was going to make more than $27 million on the open market this offseason, so you could have just given him that dollar amount this upcoming summer. But no, they tried to do it a year early, then maybe wait a little bit, and it's not paying off right now. And this is a negative contract at the moment. There were reports that they wanted to trade it this year at the deadline, but they were going to have to attach multiple first-round picks to get off this deal because it's one of the worst contracts in the league right now. Another big man that has struggled to stay healthy this year that I do believe has one of the worst contracts in the league right now, Anthony Davis of now the Washington Wizards. This was kind of a negative contract in Dallas based off just Anthony Davis's availability, and that's going to be a theme throughout this video as well, because if these guys cannot stay healthy, it's hard to justify paying them over $50 million a year. And Anthony Davis got that contract extension with the Lakers back in the offseason of 2023. It was a new 3-year deal worth $175 million. He's owed $54 million this year, which he only appeared in 20 games for the Dallas Mavericks before getting traded for maybe 20 cents on the dollar this year at the deadline to the Wizards. Next year, he's owed $58.5 million and then a $62 million player option in 2028, which is a lot of money. The Wizards definitely have that money in their possession because they have this young core right now. Nobody's really on their second contract, so they can afford to pay Anthony Davis all this money, but that still doesn't change the fact it's a bad contract. 35% of the cap space this year, 35% of the cap space next year, and 36% of the cap space in 2028 at $62 million. Anthony Davis reportedly wants a contract extension as well. We'll see what that dollar amount's going to look like. He might just end up opting out and becoming a free agent next year. Who really knows at this point? But when you just look at the lack of availability and the injury history of Anthony Davis, it's hard to justify paying somebody that's just not available for you 35% of your team's total cap space. He played 40 games in 2022, 56 games in 2023. He appeared in 76 games for the Lakers in 2024, and then gets traded, obviously, in that Luka Doncic deal, and then just really struggled to stay healthy for Dallas. Only played 9 games in the second half in 2025, and then just 20 games for Dallas this year. And if he plays less than half the season next year, this is definitely going to make the video when I do it again in a year from now. So another player that has struggled to stay healthy this year that's going to make the video right now, but that could definitely change in a year from now, Jalen Green of the Phoenix Suns. The Suns have been one of the more impressive teams in the NBA this season, and that's without maybe their second best player player, or at least the second most expensive player on their roster, really giving them anything productive this season. So Jalen Green has dealt with numerous hamstring issues in his first full year in Phoenix. He was very available for the Rockets the 3 years leading up to this trade. 76 games in 2023, 82 games in 2024, and in 2025, but has just appeared in 14 games this year. He has started 9 of them, averaging around 21 minutes a night, shooting just 35% from the field, 26% from 3 on about 7 attempts a night, career lows in free throw attempts per game and free throw percentage at about 2 free throw attempts per game, and 74% from the free throw line, 13 points, 2 assists, and 3 rebounds a night. You're not getting good defense either out of Jalen Green. And like I said, this can change in a year from now. In 2027, he might be more healthy out there, but he wasn't really coming off the best year in 2025 and really struggled in the playoffs for the Rockets. And this was an exciting young piece. But the other player from this Kevin Durant trade in Dillon Brooks has been a lot more impactful for the Suns this season. And Jalen Green is making $33.5 million this year, 22% of the team's total cap space, $36 million next year, 22% of the team's total cap space, and then it's a $36 million player option in 2028. He's still just 23 years old, but when you look at this archetype, that's not really going to be the greatest defender in the world. He's not maybe the best playmaker either. He really needs to showcase his athleticism, his shooting ability, and also the creativity to finish around the rim, and we just haven't seen that on display. Obviously, that's because of the hamstring issues this year. I'm not saying that Jalen Green is not going to work out at all in Phoenix, but when you're looking at his production for his dollar amount right now, you definitely have to be a little bit skeptical about this contract going forward. Let's go from one Green to another. I'm going to talk about Draymond Green of the Golden State Warriors. I just don't think Draymond Green is really worth his contract anymore, and he does have a free agent option this summer. He does have a player option worth $27.5 million next year. I expect him to pick that up, and I hope for Golden State there's not like a decline of the player option and an extension. He's making $25 million this year, and Draymond Green is still a good defender, but he's just not been as impactful as he's been in previous years. He's shooting 41% from the field, the lowest since the 2020 season, 31% from 3 on 4.5 attempts a night. So you're getting really bad shooting out of decent volume from him. He's shooting 70% from the free throw line on 1 attempt a night, 8.5 points, 5 assists, 5.5 rebounds. And like I said, the defense is still there, but it's not what it used to be. I'm not considering him to make an all-defensive team this year. There's still been the head-scratching fouls, flagrants, technicals this year, where it kind of drives you up a wall trying to root for the Golden State Warriors to just stay afloat with no Jimmy Butler this season, and obviously no Steph Curry currently right now. We did have a good game against the Houston Rockets recently, but some of the Golden State Warriors' better performances over the last 2 months have been with Draymond Green not in the lineup, and he's 36 years old right now. He's very reliant on playing off somebody with so much gravity like Steph Curry, and he's making about 17% of the team's total cap space next season. I know he's still a big part of the Golden State Warriors roster, which hasn't really been their greatest roster this year, more so due to injuries. I just think when you got to talk about some of the worst contracts in the league, I still think Draymond Green is overpaid in the year 2026. And let's talk about Draymond Green's teammate in Golden State. Yeah, we're going to talk about Jimmy Butler. And is Jimmy Butler a bad player or a non-top 60 player when healthy? No, that's not the case. But Jimmy Butler tore his ACL as a 36-year-old. Jimmy Butler is going to be 37 years old most likely when he returns, because he'll turn 37 years old in September off an ACL tear, and he's making 34% of the team's total cap space next season. That's $54 million on your books right now. You're not getting anything from it, and $56.8 million on the books next year at 37 years old. That's objectively a bad contract. Now, I know it's nobody's fault because Jimmy Butler tore his ACL. Nobody could really expect that coming in any way, but when I'm looking at this objectively, this is a bad contract because I just don't trust Jimmy, who looks like his play dropped off a little bit, but still a really impactful player, and I wouldn't really blink twice about paying him $54 million this year from what I saw from Jimmy Butler in the 38 games before the ACL tear. It's just now that you're getting nothing from him this year. You're getting nothing from him maybe at the start of next year. We'll see when he's going to be back. Maybe it's closer to like the 2027 calendar year, and that's going to take up 35% of your cap space. They maybe tried to move it or think about moving it this year at the deadline if they really were serious about getting Giannis Antetokounmpo, but the fact that you're getting nothing out of Jimmy makes it a bad contract. It's really nobody's fault though. Another player that has dealt with a bunch of injuries over the last few years that is making this video, Ja Morant of the Memphis Grizzlies. We saw how little Trae Young went for this year at the deadline, and the Memphis Grizzlies really wanted to trade away Ja Morant, and they really couldn't find any serious suitors for him. Ja is making $39.5 million this year, 25% of the team's cap, up to $42 million next year, also 25% of the team's cap, and then about 26% of the team's cap in 2028 at $44 $7.8 million. This was Ja Morant's rookie extension that he signed with the Memphis Grizzlies in the offseason of 2022, which was fresh off his best year in Memphis, 100%, where they ended up going to round number 2. They lost to the Golden State Warriors. He played 57 games that year, so he was also banged up, but finished 7th in MVP voting, averaged 27 points and 7 assists. He was still pretty elite in 2023, 26 points and 8 assists. He brought them to be the 2 seed, even though they lost in round number 1 to the Lakers, but that was the peak. 9 games in 2024 due to suspensions and season-ending shoulder surgery. 50 games in 2025. They were a round 1 exit, but he still missed 32 games. And this year, he's only played 20 games. He's dealt with multiple injuries. He's dealing with an elbow issue right now. And who knows if he's ever going to play again in a Memphis Grizzlies jersey. And I feel like they would have traded him this year at the deadline if anybody really wanted Ja Morant, but they don't want to take on his bad contract right now. When you watch Ja Morant, he's not as aggressive, or maybe doesn't look as athletic as he did in 2022 and 2023. And that's a main calling card of his game. So if Ja Morant's athleticism takes a little bit of a dip, you're really not going to respect him from 3. He was shooting 41% from the field and 23% from 3 this season, averaging a career low 19 points. So we'll see if he ends up getting traded in the offseason. He still has 2 more years of guaranteed money after this year at about $43 million a season. The Houston Rockets gave out a ton of money in the 2025 offseason, where they paid Kevin Durant on a new extension. They extended Jabari Smith Jr. He's not making this video. They gave Clint Capella a decent amount of money. They gave Steven Adams a decent amount of money, but they poached somebody from the Los Angeles Lakers who's going to make this video, and that is Dorian Finney-Smith. So there's some guys that I thought about making this video, like Jonathan Isaac or Buddy Hield, who are way too overpaid right now, but their contracts aren't really fully guaranteed for next season. So the Magic and the Hawks can now get out of those contracts. But for the Rockets and Dorian Finney-Smith, they got to pay him next year as well. So Dorian Finney-Smith signed a 4-year deal with the Houston Rockets in the offseason at basically the full mid-level exception as a 32-year-old. It was a 4-year deal worth $52 million. So just under the mid-level exception, but a decent amount of money, where he's going to be making $12.7 million this year, $13 million next year, fully guaranteed. Now it becomes non-guaranteed in 2028, so it essentially could just be 1 more year remaining. And I think the Rockets are going to get out of this contract as soon as possible. This year, Dorian Finney-Smith has also dealt with a ton of issues with his body. He's dealing with an ankle issue right now, but he's only appeared in 26 games. But in those 26 games, he has not been the role player, that 3-and-D asset that they needed him to be. 3 points, 2.5 rebounds, 30% from the field, 25% from 3 in 16 minutes a night. That is unplayable numbers from Dorian Finney-Smith this year, who was supposed to be this veteran wing for them. That was going to be a big reason of the Houston Rockets' success this season. Fred VanVleet goes down, Steven Adams goes down. Finney-Smith, like Jalen Green and Jimmy Butler, has dealt with injuries this year, and Ja Morant as well, but injuries is going to be a reason why you can make this video, and that's why I'm talking about Dorian Finney-Smith today. So we talked about 2 Warriors in Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler. Let's talk about a former Warrior who actually got traded in the 2025 offseason, Jordan Poole of the New Orleans Pelicans. Jordan Poole has been pretty much removed from the Pelicans rotation. He's played in 33 games, 6 starts a night. He has not appeared in a game for the Pelicans since February. They just don't really want to play him anymore because he's been flat out bad for this team. 37% from the field, 34% from 3, 43% on 2s, averaging 13 points, 3 assists a night, a 48% effective field goal percentage, and he still has 2 years remaining on this deal. I still don't get why Joe Dumars traded a nice expiring in CJ McCollum for Jordan Poole, who's still 26 years old, but is making $31.8 million this year, 20% of the cap. He's the most expensive New Orleans Pelican, and that's going to be the case next year as well. He's making $34 million, fully guaranteed in 2027. 20% of the team's total cap space. Maybe this is a DeAndre Ayton situation like last year in Portland, and they just end up waiving and stretching him in the offseason. But man, you definitely just have to hate this for the Pelicans right now, when they could have just been out of this $30 million contract with CJ McCollum. And it's not like they got a first-round pick from making this trade either. It's just been bad decision after bad decision from Joe Dumars, and this was definitely one of them. It's just you're paying your most expensive guy to not even be in your rotation anymore. How do you not make this video? I also talked about one Toronto Raptor. Let's go back to another one here, and I'm going to talk about Emmanuel Quickley of the Raptors, who did sign a rookie extension with Toronto back in the offseason of 2024. He signed a 5-year deal worth $162 million. And I do think Quickley is a good basketball player, but I just thought giving him that 5th year, or maybe just giving him that high of a dollar amount, was a little bit of an overpay. And Quickley was really bad for the Raptors last year, but he was also dealing with a ton of injuries. He only appeared in 33 games. This year for Toronto, though, he's been a lot more available for them, playing about 60 games, averaging about 17 points, 6 assists, shooting 45% from the field, 38% from 3, and 80% from the free throw line. I think Emmanuel Quickley is a good player, but he's making 21% of your team's total cap space. franchise for pretty much the next 4 years, locked in at $32.5 million. Do you feel like he could be fully maximized with Brandon Ingram and Scottie Barnes? We'll see how they look this year in the playoffs. I do think that we're getting to the point where he might not make this video next year if he continues to play like this. It's just the fact that there's about 4 years remaining on this deal, over $120 million. I had to talk about him here today, but when we're talking about all these players here, yeah, he has one of the longer contracts, but I kind of feel okay paying Emmanuel Quickley this money. I just kind of wanted him to make the video over some of the other guys that were on the bubble. And then we're going to go to the Los Angeles Lakers here, and we're going to talk about Jared Vanderbilt of the Lakers, who got traded to Los Angeles in 2023 at the deadline. He's appeared in 51 games for the Lakers this year, and I thought has played some fine defense for them, but I'm sure they would like to get off this contract sooner than later. He's making about $11.5 million this year, $12 million next year. So you can honestly live with that if he was an expiring contract going into next year, but he has a $13 million player option for 2028 at about 7% of the team's total cap space. So this having 3 more years, including this year, of guaranteed money, I just thought that's a reason why this could make the video. Vando, like I said, is a solid defender. He's shooting about 46% from the field this season, but his minutes and playing time is just kind of all over the place. He doesn't really play a lot of serious minutes at times because JJ Redick has really had a tough time trusting Jared Vanderbilt and his lack of consistency in the rotation this year. Still just 26 years old. Maybe he turns it around going forward. I just don't think Vando has a good contract whatsoever right now. Okay, I'm actually going to do a little bit of a cop-out here for my second and last entry, and it's going to be technically 2 players that are not on their current teams anymore, and one of them is going to be Damian Lillard of the Milwaukee Bucks, because the Milwaukee Bucks made a very big decision in the offseason to waive and stretch Damian Lillard to go out and pay for Miles Turner. So essentially, when you're looking at the $22 million they have to pay Damian Lillard to not be on their roster this year, and not just that, it's 2027, 2028, 2029, and 2030. So every single year till 2030, they have to allocate 12% of their team's cap space to Damian Lillard, who's not on the roster. And they did that so they can go out and sign Miles Turner, who's making about 16% of the team's total cap space. So this season, 30% of the team's cap space is going to Miles Turner and Damian Lillard. I have to bring that up. It's just a bad financial decision for Milwaukee right now, because you can honestly have Miles Turner in his own entry in this video because it hasn't really gone to plan this year in his first year in Milwaukee, but I could live with what he could do on both ends of the floor for $25 million. Centers that could space the floor are hard to come by, but when you're just kind of adding in him and Damian Lillard together, it's got to make the video. And then another entry here would be the Phoenix Suns portion of this. They kind of got this idea from Milwaukee after they did it. They ended up waiving and stretching Bradley Beal, who's making a little bit less than Damian Lillard, but every single year till 2030, he's making up roughly 11% of their team's total cap space at $19 million. So yeah, just paying Bradley Beal $19 million a year for the next 5 years to not give you a single productive minute on your roster, it has to make the video as well. And the last player that we're going to talk about is the most expensive player that we're talking about here. He's a teammate of somebody that we've kicked off the video with in Philadelphia with Paul George. It is Joel Embiid. Now, Joel Embiid has been good this year for the Philadelphia 76ers. I never thought that we were going to see this version of Joel Embiid again in his career, with just all the lower body injuries he has suffered throughout his about decade career in the NBA. He is 31 years old, about to be 32 this month, but in 33 games for the 76ers this year in about 31 minutes a night, he's averaging 26 points, 7.5 rebounds, shooting 50% from the field and about 32% on threes. But he's dealing right now with an oblique injury, and that's just the thing with Embiid. That's why he's making this video, because you can't trust him to stay healthy on the floor, and Embiid is still under contract for the next 3 seasons. Daryl Morey gave Embiid an extension ahead of the 2025 season, which felt a little premature. It was a new 3-year deal worth $188 million on top of his current extension he was currently on. So he was making $55 million this year. It negated his $59 million player option for next year, but gave him a new 3-year deal, fully guaranteed, $58 million next year in 2027 when Embiid is going to be turning 33 years old, $62.7 million in 2028 when Embiid is going to be turning 34 years old, 36% of the team's total cap, and then has a $67 million player option in 2029, 36% of the team's total cap space when Embiid is going to be turning 35 years old. So I just don't think this contract is going to age particularly well. I know we've seen Joel Embiid play like a top 25 guy this year when he's been healthy, but even though he's been great this year, he still only appeared in 33 games so far for Philadelphia. You just can't really trust him to stay healthy, and when you're paying him this much money for the next 3 seasons, it's really really hard to justify the contract extension that Daryl Morey gave him. So that is going to be for me. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, I would appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. Let me know if you agree or disagree with anything down below. Do you think I should have mentioned guys like Karl-Anthony Towns, De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis? Let me know. And subscribe if you're not already. Also, if you hit the like button, a basketball comes up as well on the screen, which is kind of cool. And I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.